Good morning, Year 5, and welcome back to another maths lesson. And today is actually our last maths lesson of the term, and that means it's our last lesson on position and direction. So I just want to say a big well done to all of you for getting this far with your home learning and still putting in so much effort with your maths work. So to start our last lesson, we've got our flashback 4 questions on the screen for you now. So you've got your 4 questions and your bonus question to complete. So pause the video to do that now for me. Okay, let's have a look at the answers together. So question 1, multiply 59 by 24. So you could have used your column method and your magic zero to get the answer 1416. Question 2, divide 3816 by 4. So you could have used your bus stop method to get the answer 954. Question 3, Dexter gets £18 pocket money a week. How much pocket money does he get in a year? So here you need to think about how many weeks are in a year, and you need to multiply that number by 18. So there are 52 weeks in a year, and he gets £18 a week. So to work out how much he gets in a year, you need to multiply 18 by 52 using column method. Remember your magic zero, and you should have got the answer 936. Question 4, work out the missing number. 23 equals something minus 47. So to find the answer to this question, you could have done the inverse. So you could have done 23 add 47 to get the answer of 70. Okay, and on to our bonus question. What time is it, and can you say it in another way? So our small hand is in between the 12 and the 1. So our hour is always the hour before, so it'll be 12 something. And our big hand is on the 4, which represents 20 minutes. So therefore our time is 12:20. We say 20 past 12. And if it was on a digital clock and it was PM and it was midnight, 20 past midnight, it would be 00:20. So Year 5, pause the video to mark your answers now, and then we'll move on to our last lesson on position and direction. Okay, so today we're going to be carrying on reflecting shapes using the mirror line. So if it helps, take a minute to look at your work from yesterday to remind yourself. And once you've done that, I need you to write the date in the yellow in your maths book. So the date is the 10th of the 2nd, 21, and the learning objective is to reflect shapes on a grid. So do that nice and neatly for me now in your maths book. Okay, so our first question is this question here, and that's how we reflect this shape here. So some of you that got onto the step 2 and 3 of yesterday's lesson might know how to do this, but some of you might not. So firstly, I'm going to model how we complete this symmetric figure using the mirror line. So one thing that might help me is to think about how many squares are inside the first part of my shape. So I know there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So when I reflect this shape, there needs to be 8 squares inside to be symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into 3 lines. So I'm going to start with this line here, and I know that this line goes across 2 squares. So when I reflect it using my mirror line, I need to do the same thing. I need to draw my line across 2 squares. Now I'm going to do my bottom line, as I find this the easiest way, because once I've done that, I can join these 2 together. So again, this goes across 2 squares. So I'm going to do the same thing, starting at the same point on the mirror line, going across 2 squares. And like I said, now I find it easier to connect my lines together using these 2 points. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Let me just check that it's the same as the one on the other side. So it goes across 1, 2, 3, 4 squares, and this one goes across 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've reflected that accurately. Now what I'm going to do is go back to what I said at the beginning. I'm going to check how many squares I have inside my reflected shape. So I said on this side I have 8, and now I need the same on the right side. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I know that I have reflected this shape correctly. Okay, so what do you think we would do to help us reflect this triangle using the mirror line? So think about what I said about breaking it down into lines to make it easier. So if you're feeling really confident with this concept, feel free to pause the video and do this now in your books. And if you're not feeling so confident, just keep watching and I'll model how we answer this question. So using the mirror line, we need to reflect this triangle to complete our symmetric figure. So as I said, I'm going to break it down into lines. So I'm going to start with this line at the bottom, which is nice and easy because it goes across 2 squares and it's just straight. So I'm going to start at the mirror line, I'm going to go along 2 squares, and then I'm going to stop because it's just 2 squares. And now, an easy way to think about this is that our top vertex is against the mirror line. So I know that it's in line with this part here. So what I could do is just use my mouse to connect these 2 points together. So I'm going to draw a line across here, and then I've now connected my 2 points together. So as you can see, my bottom lines go across 2 squares, and then I've joined my vertex together. I could also check this by looking at the squares on the inside. So I know that my inside line goes up 1, 2, 3, 4 squares. So it's 4 squares up, which is the same on the left and the right. So that is how we reflect a triangle. We break it down and then reflect each vertex. Okay, so now that I've modelled those two, I'd like you all to have a go at reflecting this one in your books. Okay, so pause the video to do that now for me. Okay, so this is the finished product. This is what your reflection should look like. So it looks a bit like a T, the letter T. And now I'm going to talk you through how we check that we've reflected it correctly. So if I look at my original shape, the left part of the mirror line, I'm going to count how many squares I have inside. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I need to check that it's the same on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that's correct. I can also look at my lines and see how many they go across. So this top line goes across 2, so does this one. This line here goes down 2 squares, so does this one. This one goes in 1, same here, down 2, and in 1. So there's different ways of checking that you've reflected your shape correctly. Okay, so here is the step 1 questions of the worksheet. And once you've done these ones of 1A, you need to move on to 1B on the next slide. So here is 1B, so pause the video to answer 1B of the worksheet. Okay, now I want you to think about how we would reflect this type of shape. So our mirror line is horizontal. So think about how we would reflect this type of shape. If you're feeling confident, you could pause the video and have a go, and if not, keep watching. So again, I'm going to break this into different lines. So I'm going to look at this line here. I know it goes directly through one line, so it's on the same line as a square in our books. So I'm going to do the same thing underneath and go along one line. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing here. So this one as well just goes up one square. So I'm going to go down one square from the mirror line. Okay, now if I look at this vertex of our shape, it's at the top of 2 squares. So I could now go down 2 squares and draw my vertex. I'm going to plot a tiny little point to remind me where it needs to go. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, and now I could join these together to complete my symmetric figure. There we are. So now we have successfully reflected this shape using the mirror line. Okay, and now we're going to move on to using grids to reflect plots. So here we have plot A and plot B, and I need to reflect these using this mirror line on my grid. So pause the video and have a think about where these are going to be reflected to using the mirror line. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use the same method as I have been with shapes and reflect my plots using the mirror line. So if I look at my mirror line, I know that my plot A is 2 squares away from the mirror line. So I need to do the same thing on the right hand side. So I need to go 1, 2 and plot my new A point. So you can see that they both have 2 squares between the mirror line. Okay, now using B. So B has 3 squares before the mirror line, so I need to have 3 squares on the right hand side before my plot B. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is how we reflect our plots on a grid using the mirror line. So if we count from the mirror line, 1, 2 to the left and 1, 2 to the right, and 1, 2, 3 to the left for B, and 1, 2, 3 to the right for B again. Okay, and what do you think I do this time? So we can use the same method to reflect A, B and C. What do I do about D? If you're feeling confident, have a go in your books, or you could point at the screen and think where you think these coordinates would go, these plots, and if not, keep watching and I'll model how we do it. Okay, so firstly, let's address point D. So just because it's on the right side of the mirror line doesn't mean we still can't reflect it onto the left side. So because it's 1, 2, 3, 4 squares to the right on the mirror line, I'm going to do the same with the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm going to plot my point 4 spaces to the left as well. Now I'm going to do the same with A. So if I start at my mirror line, A is 1 space to the left, so it also needs to be 1 space to the right to be reflected. And B is 1, 2, 3 spaces to the left, so it needs to be reflected 1, 2, 3 spaces to the right. And lastly, C is 1 space to the left, so it's just going to be 1 space to the right of the mirror line. So as you can see here, we've reflected all of our plots using the mirror line, so they now are in a new position. Okay, so here are the step 2 questions for you to answer in your maths book. So pause the video to have a go at those now. Here is 2C as well before we move on to step 3. So pause the video to complete step 2C in your maths book. Okay, and here are the step 3 questions if you're feeling really confident. So pause the video to answer step 3A now. And here is 3B, okay, so pause the video to answer 3B in your maths book now. Here is the extension question if you're feeling confident. Pause the video to complete that now. Okay, well done Year 5 for completing your independent work. Here are the step 1 answers for you to mark your own work with. Here are the step 2 answers, so pause the video to mark your work. Here are the step 3 answers, pause the video to mark your work. And here is the extension answer, so pause the video if you did the extension. Okay, well done Year 5 for all your hard work today and this term. So have a good half term after this lesson and the next 2 days. So you've got 2 wow days, and I'll see you again when you're back online or in school. So have a lovely rest of your day and have a lovely half term if I don't see you. Bye.